I'm Alan Robarge, a relationship coach. Welcome to Improve Your Relationships, where I like to talk about attachment injuries and healing, attachment trauma. And on this video, we're going to talk about how you cannot end your relationship. And this might mean that you're feeling stuck and paralyzed, and your brain is looping back and forth between stay, go, and it's this looping mind that keeps you in a state of inaction and in a state of confusion. And in a way, there's confusion on top of confusion based upon your thinking. That we seem to have a number of illogical ideas and approaches to how we're thinking, that we play mind games with ourselves. And it's these mind games that reinforce our own paralysis and why we stay stuck. And this video is about the illogical beliefs that we employ. And one of them, very particular, is about scheming, bargaining, and manipulating to force your partner to get back together, to make the relationship work, to be in love with each other. And there's this aggressive urgency. Now, in fact, there's a number of different websites you can go to. There's a number of individual, online relationship gurus who promote this sort of thing. And it all falls under the heading of get your ex back. And this assumes you've already left the relationship. But even if you're in crisis, you haven't left. But this whole idea that you're supposed to use your wizardry, use your witchcraft, to employ some grand scheme in your mind, and through the power of asserting your will, you're going to go out in the world and make your partner love you and make your partner come back to you, and you're going to get your ex back. And again, this implies the idea that you've already ended. You could still use this kind of thinking, this faulty thinking, this thinking that's a distraction into justifying staying longer and perpetuating your dysfunction, perpetuating the toxic relationship that you're in, and you're dishonest with yourself. And this whole scheming, manipulating, bargaining kind of quality that has this urgent aggression. I'm going to make this person, and there's all these strategies around, do certain things, play games. It implies playing more games of how you're supposed to, not call at a certain time, don't text at this time, play hard to get, make your partner jealous in a way. And that will activate, their brain chemistry, the hormones, the oxytocin, the dopamine, and their brain is going to just be wildly under the influence of your spell. And they're going to want to be in relationship with you because you have so much power and control when you assert this masterminding technique. Well, this is crazy. And I'm here to tell you that that's not how you create a healthy relationship. And you can't get someone to love you because you've figured out the right potion and the right recipe of how you're going to manipulate and force something to happen. You can't force healthy relating. It is an organic process like gardening. You can't force the vegetables in the garden to grow. You can't force them to, deliver fruit and vegetables, or if it's a flowering plant, you can't force it to make a flower. The flower is just a byproduct. It just happens. And so you're going against the natural rhythm of relationship when you enter this very unhealthy outlook on your control, your sense of asserting an aggressive urgency to manipulate and make the other person be with you. I'm quite aware that many people do this, and it's oftentimes a extreme response to your crushing grief that you're not being honest about, and that you're trying to, instead of entering the grief and entering the sadness and beginning to in the truest sense of the phrase, let go. It is time to let go of this relationship that is not working. It is time to say goodbye to a partner that is not the right partner for you. But the grief is so crushing and sad and is permeating so much of your life, and it's just like you're a sponge and you're just soaking up all of this grief. Sometimes what we need to do is create this extreme response through dramatic bargaining, and we bargain with ourselves and we start scheming, and we're going to come up with some manipulative scheming plan to make, we look at it like a project, which means we're objectifying our partner and we're objectifying relationship, and that it implies that somehow you're just failing to figure out the right equation or the right, to have the right solve the puzzle in the right way. And if you assert this kind of hyper will, you assert your will in a way that is like exaggerated, and you realize, if we're really being honest here, this is a very immature way of thinking. I mean, this is how children think, that we imagine that we're going to control the outcome. I'm going to force this person to love me. I'm going to force, I'm going to do everything I can and engage, just totally give over to courting the person that I'm losing, and to give everything into like making promises that, that we have to be together, and working very, very, very hard to give this incredible display, to show the partner this incredible display of just how so committed we are and we want this relationship so much. And chances are, if you're doing this or you've done it, you know that you've done it before, where you're lying and you're dishonest, and that the grief and the crushing grief and the thought of being alone, something takes over where you put on this presentation, this extreme presentation, to really make a case for why you must be in this relationship and you must have this particular partner and your partner must. Relationships don't work like this. If it means being together that you have to, sell yourself and sell relating and come from such a emphatic, strong place of this declaration to prove that you're fighting for something. Healthy relationships don't require this kind of fighting, which goes against the romantic narrative. The romantic narrative is rooted in tragedy. The classic narrative of romance is about not being together. And we don't have a romantic story if there's not some obstacle keeping the two people apart. That's not good drama. That's not an interesting story. We don't want a story where everything, they're relating in a healthy way. It's organically flowing and growing and moving. They're moving on together. That doesn't make for an interesting movie. So we need the obstacle. We need some drama of the limitation of how people cannot be together. And then the whole point of the romantic story is the grand reconciliation. And they've managed, even though they've gone through so much hell, all of a sudden they have this great clarity of profound love, and they're going to transcend hell and come back together and reconcile. Well, we oftentimes are puppets to that narrative, and we're lying to ourselves, and we think that that's what we want, and so we cast ourselves in that role. And the scene in a movie where someone's getting on an airplane and they're all looking over their shoulder, wondering if their lover is racing there in a taxi. And then at last minute, getting on the plane, the lover shows up and says, "Wait, don't go. I realized I'm an idiot. I have no skill to be in a relationship. I'm completely clueless, and we've never been able to make it work for 8 years. But in this moment, I'm throwing that all aside. I'm throwing all reason out the window, and I want us to sign up for another chapter of struggle and tension and confusion. Let's lie to each other about our ability to be in a relationship because we haven't been able to make it work up to this point. But let's go ahead and pretend we can make it work now. And because I've shown up with flowers and chocolates and I bought my own ticket, I'm joining you on the plane and we're going to fly off together. This is crazy. And it's so easy, it's so easy for online marketers. It's so easy for other, relationship gurus to say, for $39.95, send me $39.95 and I'll tell you how you can, make your ex fall in love with you and how you can force, a relationship to unfold and happen. The reason why people send $39.95 is because it's tapping into that romantic narrative that's rooted in tragedy. And the only way the tragedy resolves itself is you have some kind of fantasy reconciliation. So we're all waiting for the fantasy reconciliation. Now, does reconciliation happen? It does, but usually it's not that dramatic. And it's much more mature, and it's simple, and it's straightforward, and these people move on with their lives. It's not wrought with this, such as levels of drama. So if you are not being honest with yourself, that your relationship's over, you don't have the skills to be with this person, the person you're with doesn't have the skills to be with you, instead of being honest with ending, you might get distracted and say, you know what, I'm going to force a relationship. And I'm going to make him fall in love with me. I'm going to make her fall in love with me. I'm going to play all these games. And I'm going to, don't text this time, text this, but not to be available, but not too available. Make him jealous. That's a distraction because you're dishonest with yourself. Your relationship's over and it's time to end. If you need some skills for ending, think about strengthening your sense of self, developing a stronger, differentiated self where you're autonomous and you're moving beyond your current relationship. And then this taps into, can you have a life beyond your current life, your current relationship? And that means you need a vision and you need a plan, a very practical plan. How the heck are you going to get out of this relationship? Imagine all the energy that you're going to put into trying to scheme and bargain and manipulate staying with your partner. Take that energy, take that good energy, and put that into actually creating a plan, having a vision, a very concrete task. Define the task. You need to do step 1, step 2, step 3 to get out of this relationship. You also need agency and will. So an example, agency, when a person gets in a taxi, races to the airport, makes this big declaration and says, please, let's be together. I love you so much. I'm declaring I'm an idiot. I should never let you get away. What compels a person to get in the taxi, the energy, the oomph, the thing, they're saying, I'm going to go out in the world and I'm going to make something happen. And in this example, they're saying, I'm going to make the relationship happen. And as I've just, pointed out, there's a bit of an unhealthy, immature, this romantic narrative is not very mature. This is not healthy, mature relating. But that's a good example of the energy it takes, the commitment to say, I'm going to, follow through and try to make something happen. We need that same energy, that same approach, that same asserting your will in getting out of your relationship. So instead of getting in the cab and going to the airport and, making this big spectacle of yourself and declaring how much you want to stay in a relationship, you can use that same energy to how do you actually move forward and take action and assert your will that you can move life forward. Now, here's the thing that's important. You need boundaries around your grief. And that if you implode into your grief can be very disempowering, and to assert your will is coming from a place of being empowered. So you have this delicate balance. You need to be honest with your grief, you need to grieve, you need to find the insights, the clarity, and there's actually, healing energy that comes out of the grief as you free up and you come more into being honest with yourself. But sometimes we get stuck there, and that disempowers us, and that reinforces the paralysis of not actually leaving the relationship. Or that might be we attempt to start to leave, we get very stuck in our grief, and then we try to, then we come back to the relationship, this on again, off again, on again, off again. Lastly, something to think about if you want to leave your relationship, you have to be willing to let go of control. You have to be willing to let go of the outcome of what you think you're moving on towards. You do the best you can to make a plan. You do the best you can to have a vision for this plan and to imagine a stronger self walking out the door. But at the end of the day, we don't know if you're going to land on your 2 feet. We err on the side that you are, but you also can't be an idiot about it. You need to get resources. You need a support network. You need friends. You need real concrete systems in place to shore up and to help you move on from this relationship and create a new life. You can't control that. You can't control the outcome. So part of a willingness to let your relationship end is a willingness to also relinquish control and to enter the unknown. You're taking the risk, which invites the unknown. So this is about tolerance. This is about having tolerance for the unknown. I hope that this video was helpful and it gives you some food for thought to think about how to end and leave your relationship. If you like this video, please subscribe to this YouTube channel. Also, to learn more about me as well as the membership community website that I'm creating, you can find more about that at my website, alanrobarge.com. Thank you.